It's time for Mac Geek Gab, and listener Sylvain brings us our quick tip of the week, saying, maybe you already know, but I just discovered that in Apple Mail on iOS 16, when we long press on an email message, a pop-up window appears, and at the bottom of that list, it's possible to directly block the sender right from there. First time, Sylvain says he saw this option, and also continues by saying this neat little feature will definitely make his life easier. I couldn't agree more. Tips like this, plus your questions answered, all today on Mac Geek Gab 968 for Monday, February 13th, 2023. Folks, and indeed, welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where you send in tips like that. You send in questions. You send in your cool stuff found. We answer your questions, or we at least do our level best to answer your question. We share your tips. We share your cool stuff found. We take it all. We loosely organize it into an agenda serving one prime directive, and that is, say it with us, that we each learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include wildgrain.com/MGG, where you get $30 off your first box, plus free croissants, a brand new sponsor for us. Joinhoney.com/MGG, a free shopping tool. It'll scour the internet for promo codes and then applies them to the things in your cart. BBEdit, of course, at barebones.com. It's running right now on my computer. It always is. And rocketmoney.com/MGG, where you can go and cancel all those subscriptions that you forgot you had but are still paying for. We'll talk more in depth about how you can take advantage of each of these shortly here. Of course, you can always find them at macgeekgab.com/sponsors. All the deals, not just these deals, but deals that from sponsors that aren't even sponsors anymore. If the deal's good, we keep it there for you. macgeekgab.com/sponsors. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Oh, I muted John Braun because he was making noise during the intro. Say your name, Mr. Braun, if you would, please.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun.
That's the second time I've done that, maybe in a row, or at least twice in 3 weeks. Yeah, when I hear noise during the intro, I just pound the mute button.
Bro.
Well, you know, I have to. Mute yourself then. That's how it works. It's one or the other. Don't mute me, bro. I like that. That's so far, that's our working title for the episode. Let's see. Well, here we are. It's just the two of us, and we can make it if we try. That was George Benson, wasn't it? Pilot Pete is out piloting today, and we couldn't adjust our schedules to make it all work. So we'll do it. We'll do it old school, Mr. John F. Braun, you and me. You want to kick us off, or at least continue us along? Yeah.
Tony. This is one that I assume everybody knows, but maybe not. You are typing into a form field, and it insists upon starting with a capital letter when you don't want that.
Hate that.
Such as when typing HTTPS. It's not that it wouldn't work, but it's not what you want it to look like. Simple fix. Start with a letter you don't want, then type the letter you do want, then move back and backspace over the unwanted capital. Move forward, continue typing. So obvious once you think of it, but I'll admit to struggling with that the first few times it happened.
Huh. Yeah.
Now, the other thing I found, Dave.
Yes.
I'm wondering if this would do it. So now, I don't know if he's talking about iOS or Mac OS, but if he's
this
talking
would definitely
iOS,
be iOS. Yeah, no, he's definitely talking iOS. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, though, if you go to Settings, General, Keyboards, there's a whole bunch of little settings here, and one is called Auto Capitalization. So maybe if you turn that off. But I can't find the equivalent on Mac OS.
I don't think this happens to me on Mac OS.
Yeah.
I don't experience this on Mac OS, which is why I made the quick assumption that Tony was just talking about iPhone or iOS. But yeah, auto capitalization. I'll have to think about whether I want to turn that off. Really, the trick would be turning it off and seeing if it drives me crazy. So from this moment forward until I turn it back on. I have disabled auto capitalization because this drives me crazy too. But I might like the capitalization when it doesn't drive me crazy. I don't know. So anyway. Yeah, that's a good one. Hey, while we're talking about things on iPhone that drive me crazy, I, along with many people, it seems, have had an issue where on iPhone in Safari, 1Password will not let me authenticate. It doesn't even ask me to authenticate with Face ID. It just makes me type my password in over and over and over again. And that gets obviously very tedious at best. I filed a support ticket and they told me, yeah, we know about this. We fixed it. But some people, even though you're running the latest version, the change didn't populate the way it needed to. So go into Safari, tap the little, you have to be on a web page. You can't be on a blank page. Tap the once you're on a web page, down in the address bar in Safari on iPhone, you tap the little, the little extensions puzzle piece and then manage extensions and turn off the 1Password extension in Safari. That's step one. Step two is delete the 1Password app from your phone. Step three, reinstall the app. Log in. Step four, re-enable the extension. I tried this morning, totally solved the problem. And so I'm much happier about it. I wish I had done this 3 weeks ago because it's been driving me bonkers to have to deal with this. So hopefully that will help more than just me on Safari for iOS. Yeah. All right, back to the agenda. Porthos John in our Discord chat shared a great thing. Actually started as a stumper, which I'll share to give some context to the solution. He says, I have a whole bunch of HomeKit devices with even more linked through HomeBridge. I have a bunch of automations that trigger when devices are activated, like a light switch that is linked, etc. Some of my hue scenes don't like to activate correctly based on that automation, even though when I test it, it works perfectly. And then he says, apparently, hidden at the very bottom of a long list is the answer. When you're creating a home automation in the Home app, once you get past the trigger and you are in the Select Scenes and Accessories to Automate window, okay, you can then scroll all the way to the bottom and tap Convert to Shortcut, at which point you can use the full shortcut logic stream to wait or do anything else that it can do and then control home devices from there. Great quick tip. Thank you for finding and sharing that, Porthos John. That's a great one. So yeah, convert your HomeKit automation or use shortcuts, leverage shortcuts inside your HomeKit automation. I like it. Thank you, Porthos John. Join our Discord, MacGeekGab.com/Discord. Tons of great tips. Your questions being answered, not just by me and John and Pete, but also by other listeners. So you get the whole, it's the hive mind. It really is the Mac Geek Gab hive mind. And we love you all for it. So yeah, MacGeekGab.com/Discord. All right, John, I think another Tony brings us the next one.
Could be the same one. No, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. Yeah, there's multiple Tonys and I think multiple Andrews in this episode too. Mm-hmm. Or multiple Garys. That's what I noticed in the agenda. We'll get to them.
All right. Tony says, how did I not know this? You must have covered this. We did. But just in case, while trying to add a new lock screen, I accidentally swiped left before doing a long touch and was shocked to see my camera appear ready to take a photo. As I take a photo from my lock screen every morning after preparing my wife's pills, so we'll know later if I make any mistakes. That's a good idea, actually.
That's really smart. Yeah. Huh. I like it.
Yeah. This will be much easier. By the way, I instantly delete the photo because it's available for 30 days and I probably won't need it.
Also, a great quick tip. Wait a minute. Where's Pete and his magical bell? Mm-hmm. That's a brilliant idea. If you take a picture that you think you might need, but you know you don't want to keep, take it, delete it. If you're on iCloud Photo Library, it is kept in your deleted items for at least 30 days. Oh, that might be the most life-changing thing I've ever heard on this show. I mean, I've heard some life-changing things, but that one, that's pretty good. Anyway, sorry. I continue, John. My excitement got the best of me.
But yeah, I stumbled across this by accident one time. But you may ask yourself, how do I know what things I can do from the lock screen? And I got my Google Foo going, and I found an article, Dave, called Access Features from the iPhone Lock Screen. And you can do all sorts of things, as he found out. So one item is open the camera. You can also open the control center, see earlier notifications, view widgets, or control media playback.
All right, well, let's not bury the lead here. So, because we're going to tell people, we're not just going to tell people to read an article. We're going to tell you what you can do. So open a camera, as John said before, swipe left on the lock screen. Open control center, swipe down from the top right corner on an iPhone with Face ID, or swipe up from the bottom edge of the screen on all other iPhone models. If you want to see earlier notifications, you swipe up from the center, okay? I don't know that I knew that. I think I've done it. If you want to view widgets, you swipe right. Really? Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess I knew that. Yeah, okay. And control media playback is the playback controls that are right there on the lock screen for you. So, yeah. That's good stuff, man. I like it. We'll put a link to that in the show notes for you. Where are we at here? Dominic, I believe, is our next contestant on the Geek is Right. Dominic says, sometimes you need to send an SMS to somebody, but Apple won't let you because it believes that your contact's mobile number is valid for iMessage. Yeah, I've seen this. If people move from iMessage or from Apple to Samsung, or sometimes somebody on an Android phone gets a new number, and for whatever reason, Apple thinks that it's in the iMessage system, whatever. I've seen this. To do this, to solve this problem, to send an SMS when Apple wants to send it as an iMessage, go into Settings, Mobile Data, and temporarily turn mobile data off. You can then message your contact's mobile number, and it will definitively be sent as an SMS. So I could even send an SMS to you by doing this, John. When done, remember to turn mobile data back on. If you find yourself doing this a lot, shortcuts can help. So Dominic offers some context. Why might you want to do this? Number one, your contacts started using a feature phone because they find their iPhone too distracting. Sure. Your contact went to a festival and took a phone they don't mind losing. Oh, I never thought about that. That's a good idea. Your contact went to a festival, lost their iPhone, and is using something cheaper now, or your contact switched to Android and did not go through the required dance before they did. What's that dance? Well, Apple and Google have answers for you. Can I click on these? Is this possible? I feel I'm trying to click in the PDF that Dominic sent us because I want to share it with all of you, and I'm not able to. Okay, there we go. Switching texting from iMessages to Messages. Before you remove the SIM from your iPhone, you have to go into Settings, Messages, and set iMessage to off. And they also recommend restarting any group chats that you have. So if you're in any group chats with friends who have iPhones, to keep getting their messages, start a new group chat once you've turned off iMessage, because it will start an MMS group chat instead of an iMessage group chat. And if you've already removed the SIM card from your phone, you have to ask Apple to deregister your phone number with iMessage, and they can do that for you. Okay. I like this. I'll put a link to that article in the show notes. Great tip. Love this stuff, John. I love that we get to do this. It's great. All right. Last quick, right? Nothing more on that. We just have a quick tip from Andrew, right? I believe.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. It's somewhere here. I thought it was in the show, but I'm not seeing it. Let me see if I can find it. And if not, I can share it nonetheless. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. Andrew says, recently you were speaking about Siri commands. One that I use a lot is Siri, turn on Apple TV when I walk into the room. and everything comes on. And you can also turn off everything with Siri. Turn off Apple TV. I do this all the time and never thought to share it as a tip. I've also found that you can do this with, if you have Sonos devices, you can say, "Hey Sonos," and change the volume. You can also, and he points out that you can do, you can tell the Apple TV to change the volume and things like that as well. So, and I think you can even fast forward with Apple TV, John. Have you tried that with using Siri commands? No, huh?
No, I haven't.
No. All right. Well, I think it's doable. I think it's doable. Ooh, hey, you know that "try it free for 30 days" phrase? That seems to be about enough time to try and completely forget about a subscription or service. Before you know it, you're paying for a subscription you don't use every single month. With our sponsor, Rocket Money, you can change that with a few quick taps. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and it helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 80% of us have subscriptions we have simply forgotten about, like that streaming service you bought to just watch one show on, or that free trial you never even used. I wound up with a subscription to the Wall Street Journal that we had when we ran the Mac Observer, and then we didn't need that anymore and certainly didn't need the expense. It was nearly impossible. In fact, it was impossible to cancel online through the Wall Street Journal site. They wanted me to call and talk to somebody in the retention department. No, I just used Rocket Money, and then boom, they canceled it for me. I didn't have to call up the Wall Street Journal. It was freaking amazing. You just find the subscription you don't want, you press cancel, and Rocket Money cancels it for you. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/MGG. That's rocketmoney.com/MGG. One more time, rocketmoney.com/MGG. And our thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring this episode. You know, there's nothing quite like the smell of fresh baked bread coming out of the oven. And what if I told you you could get all of that deliciousness with none of the time and work involved? Well, you can with our sponsor, Wildgrain. Wildgrain's the first ever bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, fresh pastas, and artisanal pastries. And unlike typical supermarket bread, Wildgrain uses a slow fermentation process that's easier on your belly, lower in sugar, and rich in nutrients and antioxidants. And every item bakes from frozen in just 25 minutes or less. I've used Wildgrain. We've cooked some of their sourdoughs. We cooked some of their croissants. These things are amazing. You just take it out of the oven, you take it out of the freezer, you put it in the oven, then you take it out of the oven. 25 minutes later, the house smells great. The bread tastes great. It's warm. The sourdough is crusty. Oh, you got to try this out. Plus, for a limited time, you can get $30 off your first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/MGG to start your subscription. You heard me. Free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/MGG. That's wildgrain.com/MGG, or you can use promo code MGG at checkout. And our thanks to Wildgrain for sponsoring this episode. All right. Hey, well, I was talking about our sponsors there. I want to make sure I get this right. PJ in our Discord chat shared some additional Apple TV Siri tips. You can say to Siri, go back 2 minutes, and it will go back 2 minutes. You can say to Siri, what did they say? And it will jump back like 10 to 15 seconds so you can hear what they said. I think when you say, what did they say, it might also put the closed caption up on the screen. I feel like I haven't done this in a long time, but something about, I seem to remember something happening that way, but maybe not. Maybe I dreamt it. And if so, somebody from Apple, hey, opportunity, you know, it knocks. All right. Also, I said George Benson in the intro when I quoted or referenced just the two of us. Thankfully, Andrew C. got me right. got me straight, set me straight. It's Grover Washington Jr., of course. That I knew. What I didn't know, John, Bill Withers sang that tune. Now that he says it, super obvious. I had no idea. How about your Apple TV, John?
Let me tell you about my Apple TV. Well, not so much the TV, but the remote.
Okay.
So here's the remote that it came with.
Describe it for everyone that can't see, please.
It's the first generation.
It's a black remote?
Yes. Yeah, so it's the Apple TV first generation remote. This is the remote that it came with.
Okay.
So it has, menu. It has buttons and it has a touch surface. I think this was the first one that had the touch surface.
Got it.
Here's the bad news. I got some liquid on it that must have had sugar in it because...
Ooh. Oh,
Hear
that's
that?
a bad sound.
I'm clicking the buttons, and it's a bad sound. It
we
works.
hear it, yeah.
So I bought a new one. And what I got, Dave, was the second generation one, which also has, I wasn't sure looking at it, but it has both directional arrows and a touch screen on the top. It also has an explicit power button and it has a back button. Remember we were talking about that a while ago?
Yes, I do remember that. So you have the one that you have now has the circular like D-pad at the top.
Yes.
It has the scrub touch sensor in the middle of the D-pad. It has the Siri button on the side of it. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Now let me ask a question. How do you charge it?
Hey, good question. This one that I bought uses lightning.
Okay, got it.
But then I learned something new, Dave. So this is the second generation remote. There's a third generation one, which is exactly the same as this one, except it has a USB-C port for charging it. So.
That's right. Yeah, we got one of those with the latest gen Apple TV 4K that we got. I think it's Apple TV 4K second generation. It comes with that remote. So I have both of those. And they are, the only way I can tell them apart is by looking at the bottom of them to see what connector it has. And despite having had it for a couple of months, I don't know about you, but I don't have to charge my Apple TV remote more than, say, once a month, maybe. And I am constantly forgetting that thing takes USB-C. I always wind up trying to plug Lightning into it and obviously failing. But, yeah, that's great. Hey,
here's a blast from the past, Dave.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
See
Describe
this
it for this. I can, but most people who are listening cannot.
This is a remote that came with the computer. So it has a play button in the center.
It's white.
And it's white, and it has it has a circle with directional keys, so you can go up, down, right, left, and then in the center is the play pause, and then there's a menu button.
The distinguishing feature of that one is across the top, it has a black plastic shield, which really is like a red plastic shield if you look carefully because it's infrared. And this was for controlling Macs that had infrared ports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a time past, the Mini also had an IR receiver.
Okay, yeah.
Earlier
right.
Minis and earlier MacBooks.
Yes.
I don't think any of them have that anymore because it was kind of fun to control your computer remotely.
Yeah, they don't have that anymore. It's been, certainly nothing with an Apple Silicon, but even Intel hasn't had that for at least 5 years, if not more. Yeah, fun. While we're on the subject of remotes, listener David shares with us that the Function 101 remote, which we have mentioned on this show before, now is available with a Bluetooth edition. So it doesn't have to do infrared anymore. It can do Bluetooth. And it's available for $39.95. And if you visit their site, which we will link to at function101.com, when I just visited it now, a save 20% thing came up. So you might be able to save, $8-ish off of that. And it's $40, so $32, $35 for an Apple TV remote. What'd you pay for yours, John?
It was like 40 something.
Okay. Oh, that's not bad. This one has a lot more buttons in a sense, but lacks the touch connector, the touch sensor on it, which some people don't like. And we talked about that on a previous show. You can actually turn that off if you don't like it. But yeah, thanks for sharing that with us, David. Good stuff. I love it. Share your favorite remotes. It's fun. It's interesting. We have been a Harmony remote household for a very long time, and I still have in active duty 2 Harmony hubs, one in the living room, one in the playroom, with Harmony remotes connected to them. And I really like that because I can control them with, I have them linked with Homebridge, and I can control them with the A-Lady, which is great. However, for controlling the TV, we are now almost exclusively using our Apple TV to do everything. The only time I don't use the Apple TV is when I run Plex and know that I'm playing a 4K video with Atmos, because at current, the Apple TV version of Plex will not send its Atmos sound through the Apple TV's weird filters to my television, but my TVs, I have an LG TV, and the WebOS, the built-in version of Plex will happily play Atmos sound on my Apple TV. Good news, I have had conversations recently with actually some of the higher-ups there at Plex, and they've confirmed 2 great things for me. Number one, that they believe they've figured out a way to make it such that Atmos sound can be played on the Apple TV via Plex, because you can get it from Netflix and any other apps. So it would stand to reason that the Apple TV could do that too with Plex. And number 2, I think equally as important, is when you have a movie in your Plex library that has Atmos, Plex won't show you that it has Atmos. It says like EAC 7.1 or something weird, but it won't say that it has Atmos. They're going to fix that too, so you actually know that your movies have Atmos. So good stuff coming. Good stuff coming. While we're on the subject of TVs, listener Patrick shares an interesting thing with us. He says, I had some accidental success. And he says, my wife and I can't understand the words, or couldn't understand the words coming from the TV when people talked. After a lot of study, I took the HDMI cord from my Apple TV, that one that goes between my Apple TV and the television, and moved it from, on our TV, it's a Samsung 4K TV. I moved it from the HDMI 2 port to the HDMI 4 port on the TV. On that television, the HDMI 4 port is the one that supports ARC, audio return channel. It might even support eARC. Audio return channel was built into TVs, just as an aside, so that the sound that your TVs make, like via, say, the LG app, the LG WebOS apps or the Samsung apps, can be output to speakers that are not plugged into your TV, so to your soundbar, to your HomePods or whatever. And he says, I know nothing about this, but that is what the TV said to do. Now, problem solved. I can use Dish and peruse the channels or my Apple TV, and the sound comes out of my HomePod 2, which is connected via AirPlay to my Apple TV. We can understand it, and the spatial quality of it gives us the feeling of stereo. Interestingly, he says, even with the Apple TV technically off, using Dish and the Dish remote, changing the volume, one sees the light come on the Apple TV to receive the message by shining a little light, but I don't have it turned on, only plugged in. No idea how this works, but it ended up being too simple. I had never heard of this before, John. And then the very night that I replied to Patrick's email, I turned on my TV and my Apple TV had a big message that said, "What's new? HomePod and Apple TV 4K has eARC support now built in. Pair it with up to 2 HomePod speakers to enjoy home theater audio across all your TV connected devices." So if you have an Apple TV and HomePods and you are using them for the sound of your Apple TV stuff, make sure you are using ARC or eARC from your television to your Apple TV so that you can use your HomePods for the sound of everything that's plugged into your TV, not just your Apple TV. So thank you for sharing that, Patrick. Fascinating stuff. I had no idea. And then boom, there comes the message. Maybe new in a software update, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah? Do you have some HomePods, right, John? Do you use them with your Apple TV for sound or no?
I've tried.
Okay.
Though, my speaker system is better than the HomePods, but it was fun to try.
Yeah. It's cool that it'll be an eARC receiver. Now, if Apple would come out with like a sound bar or something, like that would be, I wonder though, wait a minute. I'm thinking, if you had an AirPlayable sound bar, can the Apple TV, is it just to HomePods? I think it is just to HomePods that it will do this. It won't do it to just any old AirPlay device, right? It has to be HomePods. I mean, that's what the message said on my TV. Now, that message could be a bit marketing and a bit informative. So I don't know. I'm thinking here. Yeah, interesting. Because if it's doing it over AirPlay, yeah, I don't know. It's not, because AirPlay is Wi-Fi, so you're getting, a full bandwidth connection. It's not like you're limited with Bluetooth bandwidth or something. Technically possible, but did Apple do it or will Apple do it? We don't know. Will Apple come out with a soundbar? We don't know. Who knows? Will they partner with someone that has a soundbar? Maybe. Of course, if you have a soundbar, you would just eARC to your soundbar and let the soundbar handle it. So maybe I'm overthinking this. I think I mean, let's be honest. I'm definitely overthinking this. John, save me.
I'm going to save you, or I think Gary will save us.
All right.
So Gary has a good question. I'm seeking a solution to be able to play Blu-ray discs on my 2017 iMac. I know I'll need an external drive, but I'm confused about the requirements for software. Thoughts? And I got some thoughts, but other people have some thoughts too. So I do have an external Blu-ray drive. It's a PodTech, which is actually a rebranded INIC 3609.
This is a USB based thing that connects to your Mac. Yeah, yes. I've got something like that too. My advice to people when you want to do this is just go on Amazon and buy the sort of Blu-ray reader / writer du jour. I think they usually cost somewhere between $30 and $60, right? Maybe $30 and $80. Yeah. So
yeah. The solution that I would use, or here's a couple of tools that you may want to use. Okay. Handbrake is a good one. And here's the secret though. If you link it to this package called Make MKV, you can then rip to, I think last time I did it was to an MP4 file. And then you can play that with, whatever player you want. VLC should do it for you.
So I have a question about this because I've done this. I never successfully was able to get it where Handbrake would do the initial rip of the Blu-ray. Even trying to link it to Make MKV, I would run Make MKV, which is its own app, but it has some libraries that theoretically you're supposed to be able to link with Handbrake. But I would run Make MKV, have it make the full quality MKV container of the Blu-ray, and then I would point the MKV at Handbrake if I wanted to shrink it down more. In recent years, I've decided, why in the world? I have more storage than I know what to do with. Why in the world do I want to lose quality? I just put the MKV file in Plex, in my Plex library, and either let it stream full quality to my TV, which is how you get 4K and Atmos and HDR and all that stuff. Or if I'm streaming or downloading to my iPad, well, then I just let my Plex server do the transcoding and I'm also good to go. So, but technically speaking, I don't care about Handbrake anymore, but I'm now curious. Have you been able to link MKV with Handbrake to do a one-step Blu-ray to MP4 conversion?
I haven't tried it recently.
Okay. Yeah, because my guess is it won't work. I think you're going to need to run the two apps. If you can make it work, feedback@macgeekgab.com. I'd just be curious to hear about it.
feedback@macgeekgab.com.
It is feedback@macgeekgab.com, but still, I would question the logic here. I would just make the MKV and stop, because now you've got a full quality thing. You don't have to, I found myself like, oh, I'll rip to 720. When would I ever need more than that? And it was like, oh crap, now I got to go re-rip to 1080. And I found myself keeping the MKVs around for this eventuality. And finally it was like, I'm going to throw away all the downsampled ones and just put the MKV in my library and be done with it. It's worked out pretty well.
And there's also a dandy article here from Jason Snell called How I Rip DVDs and Blu-rays. And he mentions a lot of the tools that we mentioned. So MKV, Make MKV, I'm sorry. He identifies a couple of drives that should do it for you.
Great.
What else? Don Melton's scripts. You may want to use some of those.
If you're using Handbrake, you definitely want to use Don's scripts. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that mentions a few things that'll make your life easier. And then it even links to the article that Dave wrote back ages ago.
Nice. Sweet.
That told us how to do this.
Yeah. Jason's article, it's 7 years old, but the last time he updated it was like 3 years ago. So, yeah, good stuff. Cool.
You know what, honestly?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a very inexpensive, and a lot of my friends have this one too, but Magnavox makes a pretty inexpensive 4K Blu-ray player.
Okay.
I picked one up at our local warehouse store, but it's Magnavox. It does 4K, Ultra HD, all that stuff, and the price is pretty reasonable.
Huh. I can't remember the last time I actually put a Blu-ray in my TV. Well, because anytime I get a Blu-ray, I want to have access to it no matter what I'm doing. And so I put it in my Plex library, and then that way I can just watch it on my TV, any of my TVs, whether or not they have a Blu-ray player plugged into them. And also I can, take it with me on my iPad if I want to watch it on an airplane. Like, it just gives me all the flexibility that I want. So check with your attorney and or I don't know where you would check to confirm that your local area allows you to do these things that I'm suggesting. But
yeah, I still do physical discs, either from Redbox or my library.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's not a bad. Your library won't do, like, I use We're now getting off on some tangents, which I love. It's one of the things that makes this show great. Is I use Libby for books with my local library, and the cool part is you get to borrow books from your library and read them on. You borrow digital copies of the books, so you can read them right in the Libby app, or I choose to read them in the Kindle app because I have a Kindle Paperwhite now, which I really love. That thing is awesome. So I use Libby for that. I wonder if your local library offers like streaming movie rentals. Do they? I've never looked into this. Do you know?
May.
I don't know.
I'll ask them next time I'm there. Yeah,
because that would be, interesting. Folks, if you know, let us know. Feedback@macgeekup.com. And I'll put a link to Libby in the show notes. While we are on the whole home theater realm, another Tony has a question. A different Tony. I think that's the third Tony for this episode. I don't know. He says, my cousin has a stereo that's probably from the 90s, if not the 80s, with some top-of-the-line floor speakers. I'd like to equip it with a Bluetooth adapter so she can stream Apple Music, etc. to it from her phone. I'm assuming that a stereo of this vintage would use RCA jacks and would have some sort of, input available that they could choose and off to go. I'm curious what you would recommend. So what you described, Tony, a Bluetooth to RCA adapter, the one that I would happily and highly recommend is the Audio Engine B1. I have an older version of this thing. It supports, it's got a fantastic DAC in it, digital to analog converter. It supports all the latest Bluetooth standards so that you get the highest quality you possibly can from Bluetooth. And I will say that even the old version of this, I've got one that's, it might be 10 years old. It works great. So if you are looking for what you asked for, that's it. However, and I'm speaking intentionally here because I think there's a device that you want that's not what you asked for. Because the iPhone, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, also supports AirPlay 2, and that goes over Wi-Fi. So an AirPlay receiver would result in better, higher bandwidth, potentially even lossless sound quality from your iPhone to the stereo. I went on a search for such a thing because we've talked about this in the past and it hasn't worked. Like our searches have failed. There's always been just janky stuff out there. Well, much to my surprise, the closely related cousin of the Audio Engine B1 is the Audio Engine B-Fi. This is an AirPlay receiver. They actually call it a multi-room streamer. It supports AirPlay and plugs into your devices. And so you get super high quality wireless sound from your whatever app you're running on your phone. You can put multiples in your house, and because AirPlay 2 lets you do multi-room audio, you could have it, streaming everywhere that you wanted. So I think the B-Fi is probably what you want, and it's the same price as the B1. So I would look at that because I think that's going to do what you want it to do, and it's got RCA jacks on the back, and obviously it connects to your Wi-Fi network and all that good stuff. It's even got digital audio out if you want to go that way. So yeah, but it's got the RCA jacks for the older stereos. So, and it's got a good DAC in it. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, John. That's where I would go with that. Do you do anything like this in your house, my friend?
Nope.
All right.
All wired.
Ooh, there's that sound. That sound means that I get to tell you about a new sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your phone or computer. You know how great it is when you find a deal? Well, with Honey, the deals just appear right there while you're shopping. Recently, I was buying a new USB charger online, and I had Honey installed, and boom, it just showed me that I could save $20 on this USB charger. It was friggin' amazing. You just watch the prices drop, and it's super easy to use. And one thing that I didn't know, I had used Honey in the past. Honey doesn't just work on desktops. It also works on my iPhone too, and it'll work on yours. You just activate it on Safari on your phone, and you can save on the go. So if you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting the show. Get PayPal Honey for free at joinhoney.com/MGG. That's joinhoney.com/MGG. And our thanks to Honey for coming on board to sponsor the show. Next up is BBEdit from Barebones. I love BBEdit. It's open on my computer right now. You want to know why? Because I have it set to open automatically in my start the day scripts and also my podcasting scripts when in Keyboard Maestro, when I start my day, because I use it so much. So obviously I use BBEdit for coding, right? Because it's great for that. It highlights the code and colors it and shades it and lays it out in a way that makes it super easy to just see. And it just does that on the screen. It doesn't change what you've done on the disk. That's up to you with the typing, On top of that, BBEdit lets you do all kinds of things with text. One thing that we've all been sort of using BBEdit for over the years. For a while, I thought it was the only one, but then obviously it turns out I wasn't. It's just storing random bits of text in files. And recently, in the last couple of years, the folks at Barebones added notebooks to BBEdit to really make this super easy. And now BBEdit supports creating multiple notebooks in any desired locations. It's amazing what they've done, because they use this too over there at Bare Bones, right? I mean, I think it's like this meta thing where they use BBEdit to build BBEdit. In fact, I'd be shocked to find out if it were any different. So they know how this stuff works. They've got a generous eval model, 30 days of full function to try out the app, and then a fresh eval period for anyone with older versions who are running in free mode. There's discounted upgrade pricing for existing BBEdit customers. Go to barebones.com, check it all out, and let them know we sent you. Our thanks to the folks at Bare Bones for sponsoring this episode. All right, moving on from our home theater section here, Larry writes, with the recent issues that LastPass has had and the move by 1Password to a less Mac-centric internal structure, do you have any thoughts on password managers? Also, as a point of curiosity, do you have any thoughts on why no one has built, to my knowledge, a user-friendly front end to Apple Keychain? Apple seems to think that passwords can manage themselves inside Keychain, but I beg to differ. So I'm still using 1Password. Mentioned earlier in the episode that it had some issues. I'm looking at Bitwarden, but I don't think there's anyone who's building a Mac only or even Apple first password manager. I think all the password managers that are out there now are cross-platform. And that was always one of the things I didn't like about LastPass, is even before we knew that they were security Swiss cheese, was that, it always just felt like, it didn't even feel like a Windows app. It felt like a Linux app. It was very function oriented with not a whole lot of form. And that might not be a fair universal description of it, but it certainly is my description and my experience, because I imported all my passwords into LastPass, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago or something, and tried it. And it was like, I don't like this. And I'm starting to feel the same way about 1Password. It's just a little, it works fine. I trust them, but it's just a little janky, like I mentioned earlier. So, but as to your question about a user-friendly front end to Apple's iCloud Keychain, I think the best place to manage that is not the Keychain Access app. It's in Safari. Go into Safari, go to Settings, and go to Passwords. You can do all kinds of things there. And like that, to me, that's the place to manage. That's your password manager interface, is in Safari. And I know that's a little weird and probably why you didn't think of it, Larry, and also why I wanted to share it in the show, but that's where to go and do this. Yeah, I would not mind a separate app to do it, just because passwords are such a thing, but there's not. But Safari's there, and you can manage them there. So I've always liked them. John, are you using iCloud Keychain these days at all?
I think I was forced to.
Oh, interesting.
To support Home, right?
Really?
I remember at some point one of my devices said, "Hey, I need a iCloud Keychain to manage this stuff."
Yes, right. That, for sure. I guess my question is, are you using it for your web login passwords at all?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm using both. I have been basically since iCloud Keychain came out. I have, and maybe that's part of why my experience has gotten janky. It used to be really smooth running 1Password right alongside iCloud Keychain. Nowadays, less so. And maybe I need to give 1Password a fair shake by turning off iCloud Keychain, or at least turning off the automated integrations of it. But I don't know. I like having things in the two places. It doesn't really bother me most of the time, unless actually it is bothering me and it's coming out in a strange way. I don't know. Yeah. So curious to know what you folks are using. TN Papa in our Discord chat says using the whole family dumped LastPass and is exclusively using iCloud Keychain. For someone like you, John, who is not happy with LastPass because of their security stuff, but also not yet running screaming from them, turning on iCloud Keychain and letting that sort of inherit and absorb by osmosis almost all of your passwords You give that like 6 months, man, maybe even 3 months, and suddenly iCloud Keychain will have all the passwords that you use. You might be able to just stop using LastPass. I guess I kind of need to do an experiment because that's what I did with 1Password. So my passwords are mostly up to date in both places. So yeah, maybe I need to turn off one and go for a week with that, and turn off the other and go for a week with that. See how that is. I don't know. Seems like an experiment, because that, like, doing that would let you just sort of gradually migrate to iCloud Keychain without really having to do anything at all, other than every time you log in somewhere that iCloud Keychain doesn't know about, it'll say, hey, do you want to save this password in iCloud Keychain? You say yes, and then boom, it's there. Moving on. Next to next. I don't know. Yeah.
Do I have it on? I don't think.
You would know, because it would be asking you that question. You would do it, I believe, you do it in Safari preferences, or now Safari settings, sorry, Ventura, autofill, and turn on usernames and passwords. I actually have it off on this device because I use this for the podcast and I didn't want the extra interface, but yeah, I don't know, worth a shot. Do you use browsers other than Safari, or is Safari your primary?
Safari is my primary. I also run Chrome on occasion, and Firefox. Well, some pages just don't work right with Safari. I hate it when I go to a website and they're like, yeah, sorry, we don't really understand Safari, so you got to use another browser. It's like, come on, man, learn how to code.
It's true. There is a, if you want to use iCloud Keychain on Chrome, and I am just learning about this right now, but there is an iCloud Passwords Chrome extension that you can install. It is, I believe, it is Apple's extension, so it's not. Yes, it is published by Apple, kept up to date fairly regularly. It says that it's for Windows users. Oh no. No, you can use. I believe you can use it in Chrome on both Windows and the Mac. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can use it there. So that. I'm not going to try it right now because we use Chrome. We had a Chrome issue earlier, and Chrome is like the thing that keeps the audio connection between us alive right now with StreamYard. So I'm not going to mess with that, but I'm pretty sure. I'll put a link in the show notes for us all to experiment with. While we're on the subject of passwords, another Gary has something for us, John.
Yes. Gary sent us a very nice article, which is very timely because this feature was just added, and I haven't tried it yet. But the title of the article is here's why you may not want to use security keys. What's a security key? It's a feature that they recently introduced that will let you use your phone combined with a hardware token.
Nope. I believe security keys is your maybe. Okay, you're not talking about pass keys, you're talking about security keys. So yes. Correct. This would be a hardware token. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, so he sent us an article, and I got to look into this because I haven't turned this feature on yet. Though I think I do have an NFC token. I'm trying to remember who it was from.
Was it like YubiKey or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so apparently you can use one of those, but the article that we're going to link to, I think the summary is basically you can use these, but only with devices that can run a certain version of the OS.
Right.
And again, they just introduced it in 16.3, so I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. Got it.
Yeah, interesting.
The idea is that the security is that is
16.3 out? Am I not up to date yet? I don't see a 16. Oh, there it is. Never mind. I guess I need to download and install 16.3, John. I'll do that now. Sorry.
Yeah, but most people, I forgot where I heard this, but good security has 3 elements. What you know, what you have, and what you are. So what you know is what you know is your password. What you have is some sort of hardware token, and what you are is biometrics.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. I on the subject of passkeys, which are different from security keys, I logged into CacheFly, the folks that provide all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. You hear me say that at the end of every episode. When I logged in most recently on my Mac, it said, "Hey, do you want me to drop a passkey here so that you can use your fingerprint or face, when you log in next?" And I was like, "Sure." So I'm curious to see. My Mac is a Mac Mini, and I don't have one of Apple's special keyboards or anything. So the only non-password way of authenticating with that device that I use is my watch. So in a sense, acting as a security key, right, for that computer. So I'm curious to see what happens the next time I log into CacheFly, if it lets me double tap on my watch to let me in. I hope it does. That'd be fun. On the subject of geeky things that are fun, we all love Tailscale here because Tailscale is like magic. Essentially what Tailscale lets you do is you install... I love it when the audio cuts out like that. You install it, Ventura and Core Audio. It sucks. You install Tailscale on all of your devices, and then your devices are accessible to one another just like they're on a local network, regardless of where they are in the world. They could be on, a cell network. They could be on a different Wi-Fi network halfway across the world. It could be whatever. It's magic, and it's great. It creates your own, distributed LAN, if you will, but it's just you. We talked on a recent episode, John, about how the problem with Tailscale's implementation is that if your Mac reboots and it doesn't automatically log you in, as Pete was talking about on I think just on the last episode, maybe it was 967. Yeah, that's the last episode. Then Tailscale doesn't run because Tailscale runs at login. Well, it doesn't have to. The one from the Mac App Store runs at login, but there is a way to install Tailscale D in the terminal, and that can run at startup before anybody's logged in. I tried this and it worked. Now, so thanks to Dan, lots of you emailed about this. Scott was another one who provided a lot of details here. You have to... It's a multi-step process, John, and the way it works is you install Go, which is a language source code sort of management compiler thing, and so I installed Go with Homebrew at first, John. I just did brew install Go. In the process, I learned that Cake Brew is dead, so. Long live Cake Brew, but Cake Brew's gone. Don't use that anymore. I did brew install Go, and then I went to the webpage for Tailscale and put in the instructions, which they let you copy and paste. It makes life super easy, to use Go to install Tailscale D. And it failed because at least the day that I did it, Homebrew had Go version 1.19 in it. And Tailscale is always, they say this, always compiled with the latest version of Go and requires the latest version of Go, which is 1.20. So I uninstalled it with Homebrew, brew uninstall Go, and I went to the golang.org website and downloaded the Mac OS installer for Go 1.20, which was super simple to use. And once I got that installed, I was able to go to my terminal and do the commands to get this running. It was either Scott or Dan mentioned they couldn't do this because they had also installed Tailscale from the Mac App Store. I had no such issue. In fact, I was able to run both of them alongside each other. They identified as different quote unquote machine names. I don't recommend doing that, but it worked totally fine. but I was able to use the command line to install Tailscale. I was able to log in. I did all the things I needed to do. And then, again, using the simple instructions on the website, you set it up as a LaunchD service and tell it to run automatically. And now it does. And so it runs in the background. A couple of interesting things about this, as listener Dan pointed out, one really nice part of, actually maybe it was Scott that pointed this out. One really nice part about this is that it doesn't run in your menu bar. And because of that, users can't quit out of it. And because of that, it makes it really handy for if you're using Tailscale to help manage family members, trusted friends' computers, because if they quit it, then you can't manage their computer for them. And so I think it was listener Scott who was saying that he uses Tailscale to manage one of his parents' computers. And it's really nice doing it this way because you know that it's always going to be running no matter what, even if they log out, even if they quit all their apps, whatever, Tailscale's running. So yeah, cool stuff. Thank you for, I intentionally didn't go through the minutia of the steps. They're just all linked right there from the show notes at macgeekgab.com or mgg.fm/968. So you can get there either way. Fun stuff. Speaking of launching apps, John, Ed had a strange one, yeah?
Yes, he did. So Ed says, I have PDF Expert designated as my default PDF viewer on my Mac. In Apple Mail on the Mac, if I double-click on a PDF document, it opens in PDF Pen Pro. Very strange. If I right-click on the PDF icon and choose Open in, PDF Expert is checked as the default viewer, and if I click on PDF Expert, the document opens in PDF Expert. I cannot find any support articles that mention this strange behavior. I have rebooted the Mac, and it doesn't go away. Okay. Just by instinct, I was almost certain that this is a problem with something called Launch Services. What is Launch Services? It's the database in your computer that basically maps files to applications. And sometimes that database gets messed up. So I did find, probably shouldn't have sent that. I found an article over at Eclectic Light.
Okay.
Kind of explaining the nuts and bolts of why this happens and offers some things to do in the terminal. But then I noticed that the article was old, so I probably shouldn't have sent it.
Got it.
And he also in the article just says, you know what? Just use Onyx. And in Onyx, Onyx maintenance rebuilding Launch Services database. So Onyx specifically can rebuild this database for you. And reports are that this fixed the problem. So
yeah. Yeah, Onyx is the way to go. And there's, your point about the article at Eclectic Light being dated is a good one. A lot of those types of commands do change from Mac OS to Mac OS. And it's for that reason that, like, when Ventura comes out, you can't run Onyx on Ventura because there isn't an Onyx for Ventura right away. That's been fixed. So now there is an Onyx for every released version of Mac OS. But yeah, no, that's the way to do it. Yeah, that's a weird, these things, they get tied in knots. It's how it works. Hey, speaking of getting tied in knots, TN Papa in our Discord chat just informed us that iCloud Passwords Chrome extension only works in Windows. So no, you can't run it on the Mac. I don't know why. Why would they limit us? There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. Somebody will figure it out. Gary, another Gary, I believe. I think this is the third Gary that we have had. Asks, I've got a question about international travel. How does Apple Pay work in Europe? A friend plans to visit Barcelona in the near future. I'm trying to get travel advice for her. She has an iPhone is all I know. Would love to pass along any advice. So yeah. Apple Pay works in Europe. I've used it in Europe and Mexico. I'm trying to think of where else. Obviously here in the United States, Canada. It just works everywhere. It's sort of the same everywhere. It's it's kind of the way I think about it is that it's an embedded version of tap to pay, which at least in Europe is like the way to pay with your credit card. While I was just there in Italy, John, I did tap to pay everywhere. There was one restaurant though that asked me, like I did the tap to pay and the machine was like, no. And so the guy's like, oh, we gotta do the chip thing. And he's like, okay, yeah, enter your PIN. And I was like, well, wait, I'm an American. We don't use our PINs. Crap. Well, past Dave took care of present day Dave by putting my credit card PIN in 1Password. So I had launched 1Password, looked up my credit card. There was the PIN. I typed it in and the day was saved. I was able to actually pay our bill and, not have to like wash dishes for the remainder of the evening. But yeah, so if you're heading to Europe, do know your PIN. But yeah, I wonder if I had used Apple Pay instead of just Tap to Pay. I got so used to using Tap to Pay over there that I would just pull my card out and tap it on the thing that I didn't even think about it because it's so easy. But yeah, Apple Pay is Tap to Pay. So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I found a new tap to pay.
Yeah.
So I went to our the place where you bring your trash.
The
transfer
dump.
center, we call it. The dump.
Yeah.
And I saw someone ahead of me, and all of a sudden, and then I saw the guy in there accepting payment. So you got to pay $6 for a car full of trash.
Okay.
I saw him take a card from someone and put it next to this handheld terminal, and then he gave the card back. And when I pulled up, that time I pulled up, I had recycling, which is free. But I'm like, oh, you take Apple Pay? And he was like, yeah, sure. I'm like,
amazing.
I didn't know that.
That's great.
So the next time I went there, I just handed him my card, which all of my credit cards now are contactless.
Yeah.
And that I don't have to use Apple Pay. I can use the card itself.
Yeah, that's Tap to Pay, the contactless. Yep, that's right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And it worked great. And I get points back. So points for trash, right?
Points for trash. I love it. That's awesome. That's great, man. Huh. Cool. Yeah, and it was Tap to Pay. So you didn't have to like put the chip in the machine. There was no swiping. It was just, that Tap to Pay thing is great. And you can use that in most places here. It's just not common is really the thing. So yeah, I find it easier than using Apple Pay for whatever, because it's one thing. I don't have to like authenticate with my face and do the whole yada.
And I made sure, I think I had to request a reprint of one of my cards because it didn't have the little RF symbol on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like a Wi-Fi bars or whatever, right? Like that's the symbol. Yeah. Huh, cool. All right. Well, where are we here? We got time for we can do another question maybe. How about Ari's question?
Let's see. Ari. I've got a puzzler here. Somehow my phone has decided to remember a misspelling of the word network.
Oh.
It shows up intermittently, but I think mostly when dictating voice to text. It wouldn't be that big of an issue if I didn't run a network installation company, requiring I use the word constantly. You can see in the screenshot when I went back to select the word, Siri offered to sort of correct it, but still unnecessarily capitalized it. Back in the day, you used to be able to edit or add things to your dictionary, but iOS keeps this obscured. Any suggestions? Excuse me. As far as I can tell, one can no longer remove individual items from the dictionary.
No.
Oh.
No,
okay.
You can't. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did find some suggestions on how to deal with this.
Okay.
And we got an article here, how to remove words from iPhone predictive text. And basically it's 2 steps.
Okay.
Reset the predictive text dictionary.
Oh.
So this is solving the problem by destroying everything.
How do we do that? I've got it up in front of me. I'll walk us through
okay.
it. Yeah. So they say settings, general, then go to transfer or reset phone, hit reset, and then choose, this is super scary to be doing this live, and then choose reset keyboard dictionary. It'll come up at the bottom of like a menu where it's, reset all settings, delete your eSIMs, all of that. You can reset your network settings here too. But there is reset keyboard dictionary in that list. I had never seen that before. So that would be one way of doing it. Just wipe it clean and start from scratch. Then every time you're ranting at someone via iMessage, you're going to be talking about that ducking thing because it won't know to change.
And then the other suggestion is force predictive text to use the word you want by adding a shortcut in settings, general, keyboard, text replacement.
Right. Yeah.
That's the best advice I could find.
Yep. That's how I've always done it. Like in Ari's case, I would do the second thing, that's settings, general, keyboard, text replacement, and just put in, like for him, I'd put network into both fields, the shortcut and the expansion. It's not called expansion, but you'll see what I mean when you're there. Just type the exact same thing into both fields. That usually fixes it, but I have seen it not always work, John. So, yeah. All right. Well, this has been fun. There's one more thing. Listener Bill wrote in with a sort of a rant, but a question. It's too bad Pete's not here because he's always our visual model. He said, your merchandise doesn't even, I went to macgeekgab.com/merch. So thank you, Bill. And says, you don't even have the show logo available on any medium. And this is, it's not entirely true, but I know why Bill thought this, because the show logo is not on anything. It's that where you would see it in the first picture in the merch store, because our t-shirts have the logo on the back. On the front, they say don't get caught. And then the logo is on the back. But I do like this idea of putting the logo on things. So we're going to add more stuff to the merch store. Send in your ideas. And if we wind up using your idea, we'll send you a free whatever we make from the store with your idea. How's that sound? Feedback at macgeekgab.com. We'd love to have your ideas.
Feedback at macgeekgab.com.
It's true. Feedback at macgeekgab.com. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. This has been a fun one. It was fun doing this, just the two of us. Thanks to Bill Withers and Grover Washington Jr. for the reference.
How about bobbleheads?
People have asked for bobbleheads, John. I'm not gonna lie. Let's see how many people ask for bobbleheads. It's a thing. I have had one bobblehead made of me. We were gonna do them as like merch for a different company that company like failed spectacularly. It was a disaster. But the bobbleheads were made. I'm sure the one of me has been smashed in effigy, would be my guess. But, it's fine. We all have our histories and spectacular failures. You can't have success, and you certainly won't appreciate success if you're not willing to have spectacular failures, folks. And if you want to hear more about that kind of stuff, including the business that spectacularly failed, listen to Business Brain. At businessbrain.show. That's the show I do with Shannon Jean, who you all know from starting Mac Rescue and Tech Restore over the years. He's been a friend for a very long time, and we enjoy talking about business together, so we do that show. I said it earlier in the episode, I'll say it again. Bandwidth, of course, is provided by CashFly. Our merch, of course, you can go get at macgeekup.com/merch. Go check it out. Buy what you want. Let us know what you're not seeing, and if we got it, we'll send that to you too. I love it. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Thanks for all of your questions and tips. We didn't get to cool stuff down today, but there's lots of stuff you've sent in there. I'm sure we'll get to it in an upcoming episode. John, what do we have to say, my friend?
3 things. Don't get caught.
Made on a Mac.
It's good advice.